Welcome to the final episode of my series on Andrew Jackson and populism. When last we left the 7th President of the USA, he had just vetoed the rechartering of the Second Bank of the USA. But even before the Second Bank's charter expired in 1836, Jackson started removing government funds from it and transferring them to what critics called his pet banks. So, for example, the director of a bank in Portland, Maine got some government loot. He was the brother-in-law of a member of Jackson's cabinet. A bank in Savannah, Georgia got government cash at the recommendation of a member of the Supreme Court. And big surprise, without any supervision, state and local banks issued more and more money. The value of bank currency shot up from $10 million to $149 million in 1 year. By 1836, as the Second Bank faded into history, the federal government realized that lots of Americans were buying conquered Indian land for sale, or what the U.S. government called public land, as well as other government assets, or paying their tariffs or excise taxes with worthless banknotes. Banks were just printing money they couldn't possibly back up. So the Jackson administration issued something called the Specie Circular. This proclaimed that Uncle Sam would only sell this land in exchange for silver or gold, or for that matter, the government would only accept payment for anything in silver or gold. At the same time, the Bank of England told American merchants that they could only pay off their debts to London with these precious metals. What happened next? No big surprise. Merchants, manufacturers, and farmers couldn't pay their debts, and the Panic of 1837, as it was called, ensued, followed by a punishing depression. A generation of farmers lost their land, tens of thousands of city dwellers lost their jobs. By 1842, 9 states had defaulted on their debts, the Hungry 1840s, they were called. Andrew Jackson did fine. He left the Depression to his successor, his Vice President Martin Van Buren, and left Washington, D.C., a great populist leader. Ironically, today, Jackson's image sits on a $20 bill issued by the Federal Reserve Bank, which is arguably the successor to the Second Bank of the United States. Thus did Andrew Jackson, Indian remover, bank destroyer, speculator, and slave owner, fade into history as the man of the people and the creator of modern party politics. A final irony, the one positive step that Jackson took, standing down a naked attempt by South Carolina to nullify the Constitution because of their objections to tariffs, was undone by a last-minute appointment to the Supreme Court. Roger Taney had written Jackson's Second Bank veto message. Nominated to the Supreme Court in 1835, he would eventually write what many legal scholars regard as the worst decision ever made by the High Court, the 1857 Dred Scott decision, which declared that black Americans had no legal rights and that Congress had no authority to limit slavery in the territories. The extreme partisan ruling set the USA one notch further down the road to the Civil War.